Hey, Shalom, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to say, call halal, Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakah, Gudash. I want to send double honors to the apostles and elders of the millstone. I want to send much peace, love, and salutations to Yaki. I'm out there pushing the word of Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, sincerity and truth. This is Brother Ariala. And on this lesson, man, I just want to start maybe a mini series going over the 12 tribes of Israel and identifying us within the scriptures, prophecy, and a little history. When I started to take notes for this lesson, man, it was funny. I haven't gone exhaustively into it in some time, just because you learn these things, move on. Me and Elder Yashawamba been talking about this, so I was going back watching the apostles videos, watching brothers videos and elder bishops, and it's so much information. What I'm going to do, maybe Lord willing, to help brothers out, is take bits of all the information and condense it and put it in a format, and Lord willing, this helps brothers be able to have access to information and go deeper themselves so that they can go read it. On this lesson, I just want to talk about the prophecies that just talk about how the 10 tribes got over into the Americas and kind of go over that information. We talk about 2nd Ezra, the 13th chapter, which we'll go into that in a minute, and I'll play some clips from the apostles and the elder bishops going into that prophecy. But, the other nations have recordings of this. You know what I'm saying? They have the recordings of the Assyrians coming in and basically, deporting our nation out. And, which led to us, traveling, 10 tribes at least, or 9.5 tribes, traveling over to the Americas. Now, this just an article I pulled up. I just typed in, Assyrian tablets, and it says Assyrian deportation and resettlement, the history of Samaria. In 722 BCE, Assyria conquered the kingdom of Israel and deported many of the residents of Samaria and its surrounding to other Syrian provinces, and brought deportees from other conquered territories to Samaria to take their place. And this is why when you get up into the time of the New Testament, it's a melting pot of all types of peoples mingled and mixed up in there. Okay, and then you had the Israelites sprinkled among them, but most of the tribes were gone. All right, it says excavations of Tel Hadad near Lod in Israel have unearthed material remains that contribute to our understanding of these transformative years. Okay, and so this is just a picture of some of the tablets that they have, and there's multiple that the Assyrians had celebrating the conquer of the nation of Israel, because our God was feared, and whenever the nations did get a victory over us, it was a celebration. Okay, and so you brothers can type this in and go into it. But what I want to do is just go over some of the old videos. I'm just gonna go through certain parts of them because, like I said, it's very exhaustive, and talk about it. These things are important, and the scripture says in Job 8:8, "For inquire, I pray thee, of the former age, and prepare thyself to the search of their fathers. For we are but of yesterday, and know nothing, because our days upon earth are a shadow." And so, yeah, a lot of this information gets buried by Esau, but through the Spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai, things were preserved. Certain information was preserved for us to go through, and the Spirit has put it on our apostles, elders, and us up until now to go search things out and talk about it. Okay, so I'm gonna play this little clip from the apostles. Yeah, throwback, right? Those who know. Look at the apostles, man. Look at the bishops, man. It's pretty dope. This is back when we were on Daily Motion. You can still find this if you type it in. They did a exhaustive series. This is like a 48-part series on the historical proof of the 10 tribes of Israel. I highly recommend you go and watch this. I'm just going to take clips from it and then, Lord willing, kind of land back. Now, when you see them, the elder bishop reading from this article, this is an article that they had got from the Chicago camp back in the day. I can't find it. I tried to just type it in and see if Google would locate the article for me. I couldn't find it, but basically the article is going over something that Lord's Kingsborough did when he basically was going over his findings back in, I believe, the 1900s, maybe even before that, his findings of the natives and how it linked to the Israelites. And so this is an article on the book that he wrote, and it had a lot of great information. The apostles, elders, they're gonna go through it, but we're just gonna touch on the first part of this series, which is just the prophecy of us getting over here. Okay, so I'm gonna play this clip.
See, it was corrupt Hebrew, and that's why, which we're gonna get, later on. That's why Columbus, when he came to the New World, he knew exactly where he was going. He was trying to get to India. Get the fuck out of here, man. That was bullshit. He knew exactly where he was going. That's why he quoted Esdras. He knew exactly where he was going. That's why he brought Hebrew interpreters with him, because he knew that once he got here, the people that were here were speaking Hebrew, but they didn't understand that they were speaking a corrupt Hebrew. So
now there's documents, books that detail Columbus knowing that the people over here spoke Hebrew. Let's get a couple of it. Let's see what I got here. All right, so this book here is from it's from a book. It's called Africans and Native Americans: Language and Race of the Evolution of the Red and Black Peoples. Okay, this is a book that brothers went into way back in the day, and they took a clip from it. When you go down to page 9, it says this over here. I want y'all to pay attention to this part over here. Okay, I'm gonna read it. Okay, and yeah, you can go order this book, but I just found a digital form. Okay, it says, actually, well, I'll read it. It says, the Americas of the Caribbean region were outstanding navigators and seamen, as noted by the Spaniards and other Europeans. Christopher Columbus was impressed everywhere by their skill. He noted, for example, that their boats, all right, which they call canoes, were excellently made from a single tree. Were very large and long, carrying sometimes 40 or 50 men, 2 or more cados, perhaps a man's breadth in width. The American boats were unsinkable, and if in a storm they happened to capsize, their sailors simply turned them back over while swimming in the sea, bailing them out with gourds carrying for their purpose. All right. So this excerpt just showed you how our people were excellent with navigating the sea. This is what gave them the capability to even get over to the Americas. Okay. Now you read down. It says Columbus found that the Lacayu people of the Bahamas were not only very well acquainted with Cuba, 1.5 days away via canoe, but they also knew that from Cuba it was a 10-day journey to the mainland, doubtless Mexico or South America, since Florida would have been closer than that. He also saw a boat which was 95 palms long, in which 150 persons could be contained and navigate. Others were seen which were of great workmanship and beauty, being expertly carved. A canoe was also seen being navigated successfully of one man in high winds and rough sea. See, high skill level. All right. So as you can tell, Columbus is noting and paying attention to every single thing that he's coming across. Okay. He's soaking it up. He's soaking up everything. All right. But what I really wanted to go to was this other book. Where did I put it at? Let me find it. All right. Oh, here it is. This is what I wanted. All right. So this book is called Christopher Columbus and the Participation of the Jews in the Spanish and Portuguese Discoveries. If you go to page 15, check what it says here. It says, right here, talking about Columbus. He was very fond of the reading of the Bible and the 4th book of Ezra, which was probably written by a Jew who lived outside of Palestine According to his own assertion, the incentive that impelled him to plan his discoveries was not a love of science, but his interpretation of the prophecies of Isaiah. In Portugal, Columbus earnestly conceived the idea of making maritime discoveries by way of the West. You see? So he understood. They was reading the scrolls and the scriptures, and they knew that there was people that had traveled across the way because they was reading the prophecies, man. They was reading the prophecies. They was going into it. This book right here, Ronald Cerny, Lost Tribes and Promised Lands. When you go down into this book on page 77, it says, a striking element in Columbus's geographical religiosity in his intense and abiding interest in the fourth or second book of Esdras, right? Second Esdras. The two apocryphal books of Esdras purport to be additional writings by and about the Old Testament Esdras, but the second and fourth book is a piece of full-fledged Hellenistic apocalyptic writing that was often regarded with suspicion by the church and just as often embraced by the heterodox. It says Augustine had given guarded approval of Esdras' prophetic claims, and much was always to be made of this by the latter's defenders, including Columbus. In the marginal notes to Columbus's copy of the Adili is a relatively lengthy discourse on 2nd Esdras 6 and 42, which reads, and he goes to, upon the third day thou didst command the waters should be gathered up in the seventh part of the earth, 6 parts that thou hast dried up, and kept them to the intent of these, some being planted of the Most High, until might serve thee. So this was often to be cited by Columbus, who argued that since only 1/7 of the world was water, a good deal more dry land than yet was known remained to be discovered overseas. But Columbus seems to have found more in Esdras than just the geographical argument. Here is one of the things he writes about this verse in his marginal notes. But this prophecy is not accepted by the reprobate Jews, yet it has been accepted by the innumerable ones amongst them who have believed in the Gospels. Israel has thus been split into 2 branches, a division predicted as inevitable by the prophet Samuel and King Saul. The reprobate Jews themselves hold Esdras, that is, the Old Testament Esdras, as a canonical authority. All right. So basically, when you understand this, he was going through 2nd Esdras and understanding that there was a more land out there. There was the places that haven't been traveled up until that time. Okay. That's why he had Hebrew interpreters. That's why he took the people that he requested over to the other side of the world. All right. So this is all more historical proof that they knew that Israelites had traveled, went back and forth. All right, because it's written.
All right, bring it out.
2 Kings 17 and 22 to 24, and 2 Esdras 13 and 39 to 46.
All right, so read that.
2 Kings chapter 17, verse 22. It says, for the children of Israel walked in all the sins of Jeroboam, which he did. They departed not from them, until the Lord removed Israel out of his sight, as he had said by all his servants, the prophets.
Right, so how did the Lord remove Israel out of his sight? He kicked them out of the land of Israel, mainly Samaria and other lands in that region. But the main place that they kicked them out of was Samaria. Go ahead.
So was Israel carried away out of their own land to Assyria unto this day.
Right, so they were carried away unto Assyria unto this day. That was the captivity of the 10 tribes. That's after the kingdom was split. Go ahead.
And the king of Assyria brought men from Babylon, and from Cutha, and from Ava, and from Hamath, and from Sepharvaim, and placed them in the cities of Samaria instead of the children of Israel. And they possessed Samaria and dwelt in the cities thereof. And so it was at the beginning of their dwellings there that they feared not the Lord. Therefore the Lord sent lions among them, which slew some of them. Wherefore they spake to the king of Assyria, saying, the nations which thou hast removed and placed in the cities of Samaria know not the manner of the power of the land. Therefore he hath sent lions among them, and behold, they slay them, because they know not the manner of the power of the land.
Right, so that basically, you know, when they were brought into the land, they didn't know the customs, they didn't know the laws, so the Lord sent lions to destroy them. And then when they complained to the king of Assyria, what the king of Assyria did was he sent back a Levite priest, and that Levite priest taught them the manner and customs and laws of Israel. But they still didn't worship the Most High perfectly, because it says, as you read on down, that they did those things, but they still continued to worship their gods, their false gods. You know, so the point to bring back from that was that the land of Israel or Samaria at that time, all different types of heathens were brought into there. You know, so-called Ethiopians and all them other nations, Arab nations, were all brought into that land. That's why even to this very day, the land is divided into many different nations, because that set it up for the prophecy that Yahushua said that Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles until the time of the Gentiles be come in. All right, so that was it on that, right, brother? So read on.
2nd Esdras, chapter 13, verse 39. And whereas thou sawest that he gathered together, another peaceable multitude unto him, those are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoners out of their own land in the time of Hosea the king.
Right, so Hosea was the king of Israel at that time, and through him, he was a wicked king, and the Most High set up the Assyrians through Shalmaneser, King Shalmaneser, to destroy him.
Now, when you look up Shalmaneser, that's just the title, okay? So you got to make sure. I like to go to ancient.eu, you know, and you can link it up. But Shalmaneser is just a title, so don't let that confuse you with, you know, what time period that you in. All right, so we're in around 720 BC. If you're looking it up for those who are diligent.
And King Hosea tried to make a league with the king at that time, with the king of Egypt, and the king of Egypt couldn't help you, you know, because the Most High had already blessed the Assyrians to be the rulers.
When you go and read this in the scripture, yes, just like the apostle saying, they tried to make a pact with the Egyptians and with two other groups of, I think, Hamites. Hamites turned their back on us real quick.
The next rulers in line, you know? So that's why they weren't able to help you, because the Most High was with the Assyrians at the time to take Israel down because they disobeyed the law, statutes, and commandments of the Lord. Go ahead.
Whom Shalmaneser, the king of Assyria, led away captive, and he carried them over the waters. And so came they into another land. But they took this counsel among themselves, that they would lead the multitude of the heathen and go forth into a further country where never mankind dwelt.
So that other land that they were taken to was the land of Assyria. And from that land, they took a counsel. You brothers know the history. The brothers have been following along. You know, they took counsel among themselves to leave that land and to go to a further country where never mankind dwelt. And everybody knows that, well, not everybody, but the people that are in the know that land, that further land that was never inhabited by man, was the so-called Americas. Because this place was only set up for the Phoenicians and the Zidonians and them to come over to this side of the world and take goodly things from here, trees and exotic animals and fruits, and bring them back and forth to King Solomon.
Boom. Yeah, so you can read about that here. When you go to 1 Kings 10 and 22, 21, it says, And all King Solomon's drinking vessels were of gold, and all the vessels of his house of the forest of Lebanon were of pure gold. None were of silver. It was nothing accounted of in the days of Solomon. For the king had at sea a navy of Tarshish with the navy of Hiram. That's why he was talking about those different nations being over here when you listen to the apostles. All right, basically King Solomon had these guys as vessels doing work for him. Once in 3 years came the navy of Tarshish, bringing gold and silver, ivory, and apes and peacocks. Okay, so they were traveling over to the Americas, getting gold, getting all this stuff, and bringing it back to King Solomon. That's why it took 1 and 3 years, because it's a long journey. Okay, so King Solomon exceeded all the kings of the earth for riches and for wisdom. Okay, that's why you have the Olmec heads and stuff like that, because it was Hamites coming over here. All right, so they would go gather this stuff, you know, took some time, and then come back.
you know. But they didn't dwell here. They might have stayed here for a few nights or a month or 2 months or 3 months or 4 months, however long they stayed here to gather the stuff that they got. And they might have left, and they left relics of themselves, but they never set up a colony here, you know, and it wasn't set up.
That's why you see the Olmec heads, and it's like they just vanished, you know, because they came, probably stay for a little while, gather what they need, long ass journey, probably gather more food or whatever they need, and then head back.
Colony wasn't set up here until the 10 tribes came over to this side of the world.
42nd verse, that they might dare keep their statutes which they never kept in their own land. And they entered into Euphrates by the narrow passages of the river, for the Most High then showed signs for them and held still the flood till they were passed over.
Right, so the Most High held back all the typhoons and
boom. So they're talking about holding back the flood. When you look at these waters, when they was coming out of here, these waters are extremely treacherous to try to travel through. Heavy jet streams and everything like that. So even right now, when you look, we're in hurricane season. You can see whenever you get into these waters, there's just hurricanes forming during certain times and seasons. Well, really all the time, really. But certain times it's even more when the cold currents and the warm currents collide. So imagine trying to travel during these times and there's a big ass hurricane in the middle of the water. So the Most High held back those things to allow our people to get over here because it was prophecy for us to be over here. Okay? Go back to it.
And storms in the oceans and the currents and everything, and that was detrimental for navigating in ships and being on the ships to come over to the side of the world so they can make it over here safely. Yeah, point.
I was gonna say, and the Lord had the chariots helping guiding them over here because that was prophecy, and there's documents on that too. And then even just like Christopher Columbus, and when they came over here, he had the Moorish navigators, which were Jakes, but also too the Lord sent a chariot that showed them how to get here. That's what they call it, St. Elmo's fire. All right, so that's what happened back then. That's how the tribes. That's the history of the tribes leaving the Middle East, so to speak, coming over to what's today called North America, and that's the voyage that they went on.
And the Americas, period, and up in Canada and all that. You know, so I mean that's another part of history. You know, dealing with the chariots and all that.
Yeah, because you got Israelites that was up there in Canada, even to this day. You got Gad up there heavy. You got a lot of North American Indian tribes up there. Ephraim's up there. All right, and then Judah even went up there. Okay? Yep.
So the tribes are everywhere, man, you know? So you got more?
45th verse. For through that country there was a great way to go, namely of a year and a half.
And that's how long it took to get over to the side of the world. And when you go back into the history, if the Lord is working with you and you read about Solomon and his navy and the Hiram Abiff and the Sidonian skillful navigators of the seas, it tells you that it took them 3 years to come over to the side of the world and to come back, bringing goodly things, you know. And if the Spirit of the Lord is working with you, you'll see it.
Right. It took a year and a half coming, a year and a half going, a total of 3 years. You know, and it says, for through that country there was a great way to go, namely of a year and a half, and the same region is called Arsareth.
Right, which they say is a corrupt word for earth. You know, and then they say some people say that, you know, because there's a controversy with the word. Some people say it means a new region, you know, but overall, if let's say it's a corrupt Hebrew word for the word earth, Arathazah, so what? It's still the earth, you know. It's just another part of the earth that's not habitable, and that took place when the Most High separated the continents or the landmass known as earth at the time. So the Most High separated that land over here and kept the other lands over there to the in the east, because the Lord had a purpose for those lands here at the end of times, in which we're in right now. Bring it out.
2 Kings 17 and 18. Therefore the Lord was very angry with Israel and removed them out of his sight. There was none left but the tribe of Judah only. Also Judah kept not the commandments of the Lord their power, but walked in the statutes of Israel, which they made. And the Lord rejected all the seed of Israel, and afflicted them, and delivered them into the hand of spoilers, until he had cast them out of his sight. For he rent Israel from the house of David, and they made Jeroboam the son of Nebat king.
Right, and we just read up above that, I mean down below that, you know, how the Lord took the people or the children of Israel, or you know the kingdom of Israel, out of the land of Samaria. Okay?
Right, and the reason was because they all went off.
Boom. All right. So yeah, like I said, man, this is on Daily Motion, historical proof of 10 tribes of Israel. I want to go over that because there's all these different historical things that show you how our people came over here, and like the Elder Bishop read, we have it in 2nd Ezra 13th chapter that kind of documents this time period, and then we have Columbus himself talking about these scriptures, and going into it, where you go and read his notes, and then people went back to read his notes, and then they wrote a book on it. The last thing I want to talk about real quick, you have something called Internet Archive, where you can type in these books, and they'll have them digitized. Okay, now if you don't have, I don't have a subscription, so sometimes you get limited access to these books. But there's several books that apostles and the elders that have gone on over the years, to where I'll just type it in, and I can pull them up on Internet Archive right here. Okay, so this is the first little clips. I'll do more going over each particular tribe next, and Lord willing is edifying. With that being said, I want to say, Call Halal Yahweh, by Hashem Yahweh Shah, by Hashem Rakakadash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone. Much peace, love, and salutation to y'all. I'm out there pushing the word of Yahweh, by Hashem Yahweh Shah, sincerely and true. Shalom.